Vaychi Yaakov Eretz Mitzrayim. The Medrash says that these 17 years were the years that Yaakov really lived. Because when Yaakov met Paro, he said to him, my years are 130 years, ma'ad v'roim, few and bad. These 17 years that he lived, he actually lived. So Chazal described, what does that mean that he lived? Sheloi b'tzar, v'sheloi b'Yetzira. He didn't have any pain, he didn't have any suffering, and he didn't have any drives inside of him that he couldn't fulfill. So he was free, he was completely free. And that's why the Torah calls it Vaychi, that he lived, because this living was the real living. This is where its living was actually fulfilled. But where did it happen? It happened in Eretz Mitzrayim. We would assume that if Yaakov Avinu finally gets to live, it must be in Eretz Yisrael. But he didn't live in Eretz Yisrael, he lived in Eretz Mitzrayim. And so he saw children and grandchildren in Goshen. It was all his family. He mamish realized that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was with him his entire life, and everything that he thought was bad was really good, and everything fell back into place. He came to a complete turnaround from where he thought he was to where he really is. And then he lived. And there was no troubles, there was nothing bad happening. He finally got it. He finally understood where to place himself in order to avoid creating conflicts. And this is something in all of our lives that we have to learn, is how to avoid conflicts. How to avoid conflicts within ourselves, because those conflicts will cause conflicts with others. So how do we cause conflicts within ourselves? It's because we live on different dimensions. And we don't necessarily know how to reconcile between these different dimensions. For example, we live in a dimension of thought, where we think is a theoretical world where we write down everything we think life should be, and everything we think people should be, and everything we think our relatives should be. And that's in our world of thought. We write it down over there. But then there's another world. There's the world of speech. That world is another file in our mind that's constantly absorbing all the information, just like it's doing now. And that file decides, hang on, so based on everything I've heard, how am I doing? Am I okay or am I not okay? Are things going to be good for me or are things going to be bad for me? And this calculation happens constantly. We're not aware of it, but it's there. This is what leads our life. This is how our imagination decides what kind of experience it's going to give to us. This is how we know which thoughts we're going to create. And the final world is the world of action. The world where we actually do things and interact with other people. And so between these three worlds, we create life. And it's all directed by the fourth world. The fourth world is the holiest of all worlds. It's the world of desire, the will. The human will is the one that directs all three worlds. Because the human will is really not a human force, it's not a human power. The human will is actually a divine power. So when we set our divine power on something that we want to manifest, now you have an entire spirit trying to fulfill that request for you, and it has a lot of resources. So your will directs your spirit on how it's going to try and manifest for you so that it can make your life better. So when our will is misdirected, there is havoc in the three worlds. The thoughts, the speech, and the action. Everything can get frustrated because our will was frustrated. And so, in order for us to be able to use our divine power, like HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to, we have to learn how to perfect our will. What is it that we really want ultimately? Because we want this for that, and we want that for the other thing. But what is it that we really want? What are we really looking for? Because only by directing your will appropriately will the divine power work in your favor. And this is what it means when a person has Vaychi. Not to have a Yetzira means not to want something that you can't have. Which means that you've become smart enough, your will is strong enough, that it knows what to want. It's not about achieving it in the outside world. Nobody can ever achieve that. If he allows his will to go wild and then he runs around in the world trying to fulfill his will, then he's never going to win. His will is just going to grow. It's just going to multiply. But when he learns to direct his will to what's really good for him, to what's the ultimate source of why he wants everything else, so then he can actually achieve it. Because the divine power will manifest, and in that area, in that place in his life, there's nobody else that has any access. This is yours. This is up to you how you decide what you want. And therefore, because it's so close to the person, if he really wants it, he right away has it. When he wants things in the external worlds, other people will frustrate him. They also want it. Everybody is running for the same thing. But when they want things internally, the divine power manifests immediately because there's nobody else that's contradicting you. If the world was just you, then you can go outside and you can grab whatever you want and it's yours. But you can't do that now because there's other people who are going to say, no, this is mine. But in the world of thought, in the world of will, you are the only one that dictates what's going to happen. It's yours. This is your kingdom. This is your reality. This is really why you're here in the first place. It's because you have that ability within you. So to know how to direct the human will is to know how to direct the desire of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to create. Because that's exactly what's going to be created. That's the lens through which HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates. Through the human will. And so our job is to figure out what's really within our hearts. What does it really want? Because if I'm going to, in my mind, think different than I really want in my heart, then I'm going to create friction. Then I'm not going to be my true self. And then I'm not going to have my connection to the one who created me. Hashem created you to be the best version of yourself, and He has a direction for you how to develop your imagination so that you can even realize what it means to be you. Because if you just follow what you can see outside, you're never going to realize who you are, and then you're going to miss the opportunity to be you. So He gave us instruction through the people that understood, and the instruction is not simple, and it should never offend any nefashos, because the only reason it was given was to build nefashos, was to make Jewish nefashos feel that they belong in this world, and that they have a purpose, and therefore they should continue to discover and develop their imagination so that it can start to give them a little taste of what's really happening here. And once they reach that, then their guidance will be within. The idea is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us. The information that we have has to correlate to that reality. The reality that we're looking for is the reality that created us, not for anybody else. If it's anybody else, we don't want to serve him. So we have to make sure that whatever is given over somehow translates into something good for what you are. Because that's your first duty, is to be what you are. That's your contract with the Creator. You are the contract, playing out. And every move that you make on this contract defines how you're going to afterwards read the contract. So knowing how to do this properly is how people arrive to higher levels of development, because they were no longer afraid to develop. A human being doesn't have access to his spirit as long as he's afraid. And if he doesn't know who created us, he's afraid. And when he's afraid, he doesn't develop. And this is why people are so, at the level that they are, that they can't even focus for a few minutes before they get distracted. Their own mind is not calm, is not able to process what's happening to them. There's a lot of overload of information that they don't know what to do with. The mind is crunching and doesn't know what to make any sense of it. And that's because we're in artificial environments where people just keep filling us with information without really any purpose. So the nature of wisdom is that it's purposeful information. It's information that will help you be you. It will remind you what you really are, and you know already that you're that. You just have to be reminded. You understand? Because the imagination can play all kinds of tricks. It has already visions and ideas ingrained in such a deep place in your mind that when you recognize something, you don't realize it's just because deeper inside you have more of the same information. It's not really because it's true. So all that is to clean the imagination so that it sees reality for what it is for the first time. And when that happens, that a person never forgets that. That's Ruach HaKodesh, meaning he's tuned into reality. He's actually experiencing it. He's there. It's happening live. And a person like that, when he describes reality, he can describe it to you like it is. He doesn't describe to you a story. He doesn't describe to you something that might be. He takes you to where it is so you can see it for yourself. So the idea is that life, real life, Vaychi Yaakov, when is the person alive? Only when he has this. So don't blame the Creator for creating such a sluggish life. This is not life. You got killed, so that's why you're feeling like this. But this is not life. Life is something else. If you would live, then you would know that it's worth it. Then you wouldn't start asking, why did you create me? What did you want? It would be obvious to you. So the goal is that within us is the potential to have this experience. We have in our DNA people who proved to reality that they can actually manifest this experience. They can actually be that. And this is the kind of information that's of extreme importance, but it wasn't something that was given out freely to everybody. Because a lot of people were wise, a lot of people were powerful, but not everybody had the right intentions. Not everybody wanted what was really good for everybody. And so today, when we look at material, we have to try to understand that these people loved us more than we love ourselves. By far, they cared about us more than we care about ourselves. And yet they said what they said because it needed to be said this way, for whatever reason. And it's our job to figure out why. Because otherwise we won't know what they're saying. And they're saying something important, we can be sure of it. They're not the type of people who play around. So there's something within us, there's a potential within us that we were created for. This is the only reason we're here. And we don't have access to that. And that's why it doesn't feel right. Something inside of us says this is not right. Can't be. Why would anybody make this? It doesn't make any sense. And that's because we don't have the right information. We don't understand the experience appropriately. So we're creating it wrong. And instead of blaming our minds, which only saw a tiny fraction of reality, we blame the one who created the whole thing. That's our logic. He must have created it bad. If I couldn't figure it out, he must have created it bad. And so the Torah says, no, you're the one that's wrong. Something you're not seeing. There's something that should be seen because people have seen it. And that vision can change everything. Because knowing that He's good, just having that setting in your brain set right, changes your entire experience of life. The lens changes. You see everything from a different light. You see people from a different light. You see what happens in your machshavas in a different light. In your ma'asim, things start becoming meaningful. If you know that He loves you, it's meaningful. And if you're not sure, then it loses the meaning. And if it doesn't have meaning, then you don't have energy. The energy comes from the meaning. The energy comes from how much is your spirit bought into this experience. Does it want it? Does it want all of it? Or is it not so sure right now? That's our source of energy. This is what we run on. We run on spiritual juice. Do we feel like it or do we not feel like it? That's what makes all our decisions. And so when we will have access to better juice, when we will have access to a different form of life, then it'll be easy for us to be nice. And then the world will be nice. We're doing it wrong. It doesn't work. We're doing it wrong. It's broken. And then our own machshava is fighting with our own dibur. Our dibur doesn't match to our ma'aseh. And there's so much friction inside that wherever we look, we see friction. Everything reminds us of somewhere that hurts. And that's something that doesn't have to be that way because it's just us. Remember, we said the will drives the thought. That's your department. Nobody else can help you there, just you. Whatever is in there, whatever is in your will, and whatever is in your thought, you must take full responsibility for it because that's you. That's what defines you. That's what you bring to the world, and then the clash happens. Hey, my thought says this, but the world says that. And suddenly there's a whole war going on. But all that because you thought. All right, let's try to think different. Because you don't want to come into conflict. You don't want to lose life. You don't want the time should go by and you're not available because something is bothering you. So we have to learn how to think and want in a way that works so that we can live. And this works in increments. As much as we'll get rid of conflicts in our life, as much as we'll get rid of conflicts within ourselves, the more pure our will be, and the more it will come out and manifest into reality. Because we will be that person that makes it happen. Most of the time when God wants to give you something, He's going to use you to get it. So if you're not available, you're not going to get most of the things God wants to give you. You're going to get only the stuff other people give you. Exactly. Because once you want what He wants, then what does He want? He just wants what's good for you. What else can He want? So, when we realize how simple it is, how true it is, then the old things, they don't have the same meaning anymore. And this is why Yaakov Avinu lives Dafkin Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim means all the old things, all the old beliefs, all the old understandings, they're still there, but it doesn't matter. He's already Vaychi. He's already lit up. He's already different. He sees it already properly. He can see everything in the right context. Mitzrayim, exactly. Going into Mitzrayim is a scary thing. When a person loses his identity and he starts thinking that he is the thoughts, then he's a Mitzrayim. Then he's running around from side to side trying to save himself from a world that doesn't exist. And so when a person wakes up, the Mitzrayim doesn't matter anymore. He is where he is, regardless of the things that happened in the past or the things that might happen in the future. They can't mess with the one that created it. Nobody can. We're all part of the program. We're just brains trying to figure out what we're doing in this beast. But we're not fully connected. We're not fully attached. And that's why we don't understand ourselves. We don't feel the way that we're supposed to feel. We don't have the compassion that's supposed to make the world go round. Like the pasuk says, Olam chesed yibane. The world gets built from compassion. When the compassion is lacking, then the world gets built by fear. Everybody's afraid. One guy's afraid of losing his job. The other one's afraid of losing his business. The other one's afraid of what's going to happen tomorrow. And the other one's just afraid that somebody else might have more money than him. But they're all afraid. Nobody's working out of compassion. And the bodies suffer, the minds suffer. Because this is our nature. This is our Creator talking. I didn't create you to slave away. I created you to be compassionate about life and act out of compassion. I gave you a heart. You should feel. You should see the people. You should care about them. You should create deep relationships so that you can feel safe, so you can have roots on this planet. But people are busy. People are running out of fear. And then their bodies don't feel too comfortable. So it should all be Zohar. The Kadosh Baruch Hu should give us life from the Mekar HaChaim, and it should be real life. It should be life, like it says, Vaychi Yakov, Shaloi b'tzar, Shaloi b'Yetzira, V'yaz Gal Tzedek Meher b'Yimenu.